Hello, fellow educators. I am back to explain the specific learning journey piece that is the student facing tracker. So, this piece is really important because your students are able to keep track of not only where they are in the process of working through their interactive learning journey, but also they're able to assess themselves along the way and check for understanding. So, here is a visual example of what this might look like. You'll notice that I also matched the colors on this to the colors that are on the learning journey. This is a really important piece so that students are connecting those objectives together and they know that they match and that what skill it is. This is just another way for younger students to visually understand something. So it's really helpful to use the color coding when you're looking at the student facing tracker as well. So the way that this works, this blank here is to fill in whatever the target is that you're working on. So maybe this is a fractions unit that we're working on in second grade. I would say this is my progress on fraction goals. If it's bigger than that, you could include a few things there if you wanted to, but I highly recommend picking one kind of umbrella overarching skill to put there so that they can know, okay, I know that this is my tracker for all of fractions, or maybe it's just specific pieces of fractions. Maybe it's just equivalent fractions or partitioning things or whatever it is that you choose. So pick something that fits your students and what they're learning best. Then you'll see the little chart here. This is where they get to fill in their mastery, levels of mastery along the way. So you'll see that there's a self-assessment and a teacher assessment. This is really helpful because not only am I going to do the assessments that I typically do and give them a grade on that, but they're also going to assess themselves before I even get the chance to look at their work. This is another great way to help students feel responsible for their own learning and also take ownership of the work that they've done and self-assess. So this is also a really important skill that you'll want to teach your students up front before implementing the interactive learning journeys. So for the self-assessment, once they finish the purple standard or objective, so on our learning journey here, these are all the purple skills that they had to do. So if they've completed all of those tasks and they've finished the mastery check, they would come to their student facing tracker here and they would give themselves a grade. Now, this is where you could have it digital or you could have it printed out. It's however you see fit. Typically, I would print out this page only. The student facing trackers, they have a physical copy. You could have it in their math folders or however you set up things in your classroom. But having one page or even a half sheet for each student to keep track of their goals on paper is really, really helpful. So they would go back through their purple work or even just thinking through how did that feel with this specific skill. So let's go back to the fractions example. If the first learning standard was about just partitioning shapes into equal parts, they would think through the tasks that they did. So they had a video with guided notes, they did a game and a practice page, and they had to check all of that work before they did their mastery checks. So we're talking about 4 different pieces of evidence that they have to think through their level of understanding. You'll see down at the bottom where it's a key to help them assess themselves and what each number means. Again, you could use whatever scale your school uses or whatever system you use in your classroom. It could be A's, B's, C's. It could be plus, check, minus. It could be 1, 2, 3. However you set it up is wonderful. It could even just be for younger grades below second grade. You could even just do like a sticker once they complete it. Again, there's that autonomy piece for teachers to choose what works best for not only them, but their students as well. So then once they complete their own assessment, so if this student finished the purple standard and they feel like they can do it, but they still need support, they would probably give themselves a 2. So on paper, they would put a 2 in that box. And then they would turn this paper into me. Again, you'll have your own system set up for this in your classroom, but I have a designated place that they will place these when they finish a learning target. And then as I have that free time, which is the wonderful thing about these interactive learning journeys, as I have the free time between working with students, I pull out, I start flipping through the ones that students have turned in. And if I notice, oh boy, little Jimmy gave himself a 1, I need to go back and check in with him because he's not feeling successful with that specific skill quite yet. And then sometimes you have those students that will give themselves a 3 or whatever that highest level is, but then you're looking at their work and it doesn't match up. So that's another great tool to use if you're noticing that somebody is giving themselves 3s on their own assessments, but you're not seeing that same level of work, then that might be another time to pull a student and work with them and talk about what those levels of understanding really mean. So again, that's really important to do that front loading. And then once the student gives themselves a self-assessment and I take a look at their work, then I also give them an assessment. So I could give this person a 2.5. If I think that's good enough for them to move on, great. I don't need to have them come back and do any reteaching or rewatch the video, which is another great piece of having that instructional video for them to access. They can reteach themselves with the video. But I will give them a grade for that specific skill. And then if their level of mastery is not quite where I want it to be yet, then that's when I might suggest that they go back and rewatch the video, or, hey, I want you to play that game again. Or maybe I have a backup practice page for them to do. And again, that's your discretion. So I might pull that student aside and say, hey, let's look at this together. I noticed that you missed these 2 questions. And why do you think that is? And that's an opportunity for me to do some reteaching, or also just give them another chance to provide some evidence and show what they know. Sometimes one specific assignment doesn't do the trick. So this is the student-facing tracker. And again, I would print this out so the students have a physical copy of it to fill out, and provides the students and the teachers with a great way to keep track of their work and their levels of understanding with the specific skills that you choose. So however you choose to do this in your classroom, I hope you enjoy it.